I think that DevOps is very much a set of values. It's a way of working with one another, a way of collaborating. It's a framework for working in a modern SaaS organization. I'd been in World Remit about 2 weeks, and I sent an email out that said, the subject header was, if you have a team named DevOps, you're doing it wrong. I really believe that you can't build an organizational structure around it. You can't give those duties to a particular team. You actually, it's a set of values about how you work together and how you take care of a live service that you have to spread across multiple teams. You can change culture in any organization. You can change culture proactively and on purpose towards something better. You can change it inadvertently and accidentally towards something much worse. The basic idea of the organizational health, or the health of the group, the company, the engineering department, is really, really important. Intelligence and skill sets and commitment are basic building blocks of an engineering team. But the health of the organization is really what amplifies those things, which kind of makes any company larger than the sum of the individuals. And so in that kind of situation, the culture of the organization, if it embraces the values that DevOps brings to the table about, operating and developing the software in kind of unison, collaboratively across teams, that's really, really crucial. So for us at World Remit, one of the things that we've done is we've kind of established the 3 key metrics. One of them is a product or business metric that tells us how well we're growing our business. One of them is throughput, which tells us how quickly we're getting to market. And one of them is service health, which tells us how healthy and well what we put out there is and how it's helping our customers or serving our customers. I think that that's really, really important to come back to the DevOps, is because those values can influence those things and help you make decisions around those metrics. Do people in a Windows environment need to do anything differently around DevOps? I don't know that they necessarily need to do anything differently, but I think in many ways, an older, more traditional Windows environment means that you may have to start more slowly, and you may have to, be prepared that it will take longer, that you'll have to bring more people on the journey, that you'll have to, start with your baby steps. But I think the same is true, for any other kind of capability that you're trying to build out in your organization. If you're a Windows, organization and you want to build out automation, you need to think about where it is that you really want to get to. You need to think about the steps that will get you there, and you need to be prepared. It might take a little bit longer. New companies that are coming online now, they start in the cloud. They don't start on-prem. They start with PaaS, capabilities. They don't start with virtual machines necessarily. So it's the older companies, and it's not necessarily because they're Windows-based. It's because it's a more established business. It's a more established IT or engineering department, and they've got people and process and production code that's been around longer. So that process of changing that is just going to be a more complicated, longer process. But I don't actually think that you do DevOps differently in that sense, because it's a set of values. My viewpoint of Microsoft and DevOps, I was really fortunate to actually have worked at Skype a few years ago, and this was after the acquisition by Microsoft, but Skype was still very much a standalone kind of engineering department, and it was, in its own data centers, using its own, open source stack, not using a lot of the Microsoft technologies in its stack, nor Microsoft data centers, nor Azure. And it was really fascinating to talk about how to take Skype beyond that and interact with our colleagues out in Redmond who were trying to build a lot of these functionalities or capabilities into the Azure platform. This is 2 years ago now, at least. And it was really exciting to see the shift in mindset happening at the most fundamental ground, level out in Redmond, of how Azure is actually going to be, a cloud, a service that customers are going to use, and that they had to be focused on an entirely different set of ideas around, managing change, dealing with incidents, metrics on, the live service, and feeding that back to a team that's looking after their features or their service they've deployed. So I think it's a journey that Microsoft are on. I think they're more than 2-3 years well into it. I think the pace of change that they're bringing to DevOps and bringing to, native cloud companies is unprecedented. And, for us at World Remit, we're in e-commerce or banking, financial services, however you like it. We help customers transfer money back home from abroad. And to know that compliance and regulatory adherence to standards and working with government and being fiscally responsible is built into the DNA of Microsoft, because they've been helping businesses for 30 years, and now they're getting into the cloud and innovating so quickly. For us, that's the perfect mix of enterprise ready, but also innovating at a pace that a cloud native company like World Remit is really happy with. We're really lucky that we've been designated a hypo account at Azure in Microsoft, and so we've had the opportunities already to work with the Azure support team and the Azure engineering team to kind of feed back from a strategic customer point of view, what's it like in the middle of an outage that where something's gone wrong with Azure as well as on our own site. So I think that from Microsoft, enterprise level support is a new game for them to be in, and I think what they have in such a short space of time is fantastic, but I think that they need to take it aggressively to the next level. As much as they take their innovation of feature sets and PaaS capabilities, they need to be taking that enterprise level cloud support to that next level as well. That's what, as a Azure customer, I'm keen to see. What are the biggest barriers to DevOps adoption? Off the top of my head, pragmatically, the on-call rota. Companies don't know how to deal with that. Do you have to go through an HR process and change people's contract? Do you have to pay them for overtime? That seems to be a big barrier that people just look at and kind of stand back from or wash their hands from, and we're not going to deal with that now. So I would say that, early on, kind of having a think about that, talking to your HR department and your, who handles your budget about, what are some of the options available to you to move to that model would be important. But secondarily, I would say, even if you don't use an on-call rota, even if you're not, going down that kind of flavor of DevOps, that shouldn't stop you. So the first steps an organization should take if they want to implement a DevOps culture. I guess it depends on if you've been in that organization for a while or if you're new to the organization. It will depend on what you do. But for example, for me, I've been new to the most recent organization I joined. The first thing to do is learn about the existing culture and what in that is already close or akin or sympathetic to DevOps, and what in it is not, and why is it like that. There's always a reason why something has evolved or ended up where it is. So you need to understand what those things are. You need to learn from the past and make sure that you can respect how it ended up there. And then I think that you need to be realistic about how much or how little, what flavor of DevOps your organization is going to move towards. Not everyone can be the Phoenix Project. It's not that simple. You have to pick the right. It's like choosing ice cream. You want an ice cream. You want an ice cream sundae, but you got to know what flavors of ice cream we're going to make up that sundae. And you got to pick them in advance. But once you get through all of that kind of thinking and understanding about your organization, I think then you have to get really pragmatic. And I've seen this work at Skype, and I've made sure to take this path at World Remit, and that is focus on the pragmatic. Find something that's a pain point, something that's really broken, that doesn't work, and try to use some of the values around DevOps to fix it. So at World Remit, one of our problems was outages. We didn't have a framework in place around them. So it meant that the heroes always had to come out any time of day to fix something, no matter what size or impact to the business that problem was. And by focusing on that and fixing that and showing people that we made their lives better, they didn't have to wake up at 3 a.m. over a small incident. 3 a.m. call outs were really only for serious events, and showing people that mapped back to working in a DevOps mode or having DevOps values. That was really, really powerful. So what role do communities have in helping us implement DevOps where we work? I think it's very similar to the role that communities play in a lot of the other transformations we've all gone through in our IT careers, whether it was Agile or ITIL or Scrum or open source. It's a place to go to collaborate with like-minded folks, to get ideas, to share war stories, to ask questions. I think understanding that you're not alone in it and that you're not the expert in it and you don't have all the answers, and other people who are different than you will have better or different answers is the role that every community plays. To draw the analogy, it's one of the reasons why open source software is such a powerful model for developing software. The idea that open collaboration and generating something new from the experience set of a diverse group of perspectives and skill sets is the same goes for DevOps and for using communities in that way.